Hello, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm here to talk about all of my most anticipated spring releases. So originally this video was going to be a Q2 anticipated releases, so April, May, and June. However, there are so many books coming out in April and May that I decided to just cut it off there. I don't know what's in the water, but I just feel like we are being blessed with so many good releases this year. I have a lot of exciting books to talk about, so let's just go ahead and get started. So first up, I have A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this is coming out on April 1st. This is book 2 in the Shadow of the Leviathan trilogy, book 1 being The Tainted Cup. And this is a fantasy mystery series with a Sherlock-esque investigator and her Watson-esque assistant, who in the first book are investigating the death of a high imperial officer who dies after a tree spontaneously erupts from his body. I've heard nothing but really good things about the first one. I was really hoping to get to it last year, but alas, I did not. So hopefully this year I will be able to get to it, and lucky for me, the sequel will be out and ready for me to pick up if I want to pick it up right after the first one. Next we have Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen, and this also comes out on April 1st. And this is the third book in the Little Thieves trilogy, the first book being Little Thieves. And I believe this is like loosely a Goose Girl retelling. So our main character Vanja steals the identity of the princess and uses that status to lead a double life as a jewel thief. However, when Vanja crosses the wrong god, she is cursed to give back everything that she has stolen. Vanja has 2 weeks to figure out how to break her curse and make her get away. She'll have to pull the biggest grift yet to save her own life. I've heard absolutely nothing but good things about this series as well, and I'm really looking forward to finally picking it up. Next up, I have The Sirens by Amelia Hart, and this also comes out on April 1st. A story of sisters separated by hundreds of years, but bound together in more ways than they can imagine. So we're following 2 timelines, one in 2019, when after a lucid dream, Lucy wakes up in her ex-lover's house with her hands around his throat. Horrified, she flees to her sister's house hoping that she'll have answers. But her sister is missing, and stranger still, Lucy starts to hear rumors about missing men, a baby abandoned in a sea-swept cave, and whispers of women's voices in the waves. And then also in 1800, we are following Mary and Eliza. Mary and Eliza are torn from their loving home in Ireland and forced into a convict ship heading for Australia. As the boat takes them farther and farther from all that they know, they begin to notice unexplainable changes in their bodies. The Sirens is an extraordinary novel that captures the sheer power of sisterhood and the indefinable magic of the sea. This is the same author that wrote Wayward, which is another book that I've heard just really wonderful things about. And so this also seems to be following that kind of dual timeline thing. And it just sounds really magical and strange. I'm looking forward to this one. Next, I have Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake, and this is also coming out on April 1st. The story of 3 siblings who, upon the death of their father, are forced to reckon with their long festering rivalries, dangerous abilities, and the crushing weight of all their unrealized adolescent potential. Where there's a will, there's a war. Meredith, textbook accomplished eldest daughter and the head of her own groundbreaking biotech company, has recently cured mental illness. You're welcome. If only her father's fortune wasn't her last hope for keeping her journalist ex-boyfriend from exposing what she really is. A total fraud. Arthur, second youngest congressman in history, fights the good fight every day of his life, and yet his wife might be leaving him, and he's losing his re-election campaign. But his dead father's approval in the form of a seat on the Wynfair throne might just turn his sinking ship around. And Elid, once the world's most famous ballerina, has spent the last 5 years as a run-of-the-mill marketing executive at her father's company after a life-altering injury put an end to her prestigious career. She might be lacking in accolades compared to her siblings, but if her father left her everything, it would finally validate her worth by confirming she's been his favorite all along. And I should note that the 3 of them are telepathically and electrokinetically gifted. I have yet to read an Olivia Blake novel, but I hear that she's really good at writing like really detestable characters that you kind of root for in spite of yourself, you know? This one in particular sounds really, really good to me. It's giving Umbrella Academy, and I'm excited to check this one out. Next, Next, I have The Book That Held Her Heart by Mark Lawrence, and this is coming out on April 8th. This is the final book in the Library trilogy, the first book being The Book That Wouldn't Burn. And this is a series that I've been greatly looking forward to reading. To be honest, the synopsis for the first book is very cryptic and vague, so I can't really tell you what the series is about specifically, but I'm pretty sure it has some kind of vast, mysterious library. I've heard great things. I know a lot of you are fans of this series and are greatly looking forward to this last book. Next, I have Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, and this comes out on April 22nd. Look at this cover. A twisted, tangled story about workplace love affairs and plants with the taste for human flesh. When Shell Pines sees a help needed sign in a flower shop, she decides to take a chance. After all, she's just left her fiance, lost her job, and moved home to live with her parents. Shell finds out quickly that flowers are just the thing that she's been looking for, as is Neve, the beautiful florist who wrote the sign asking for help. The thing is, Neve needs more help than Shell could possibly imagine. An orchid growing out of sight in the heart of the mall is watching them closely. His name is Baby, and the beautiful florist belongs to him. He's young, he's hungry, and he'll do just about anything to make sure he can keep growing big and strong. Nothing he eats, nobody he eats, can satisfy him except the thing he most desires, Neve. He adores her and he wants to consume her and will stop at nothing to eat the one he loves. This is a story about possession, monstrosity, and working retail. I can't tell you how excited I am about this book. Like, it sounds so good. It pulled me in with that cover. And once I read the synopsis, I was like, oh god, that sounds so good. I think I will definitely be pre-ordering this one for sure. Next up, I have Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey, and I am almost certainly going to mispronounce this, Impasici, and this comes out on April 22nd. And this is a Little Mermaid retelling. So Celeste, the youngest daughter of the Siren Queen, is desperate to prove her worth. She wants to join the Chorus, an elite group of siren warriors, if only she can gain control over her temperamental song. But when Celeste encounters a seemingly harmless ship helmed by the intriguing Prince Raiden, her path veers towards forbidden waters. Celeste defies siren law to save Raiden's life, despite knowing he is the son of a king who has murdered many of her kindred. The penalty for Celeste's betrayal should be death, but the queen offers her a way to right her wrong by assassinating the prince. Determined to discover the truth behind the prince's clandestine mission, Celeste agrees to become human. The human world is nothing like she expected, nor is the prince charming and noble man she assumed him to be. But as Celeste finds her place aboard the ship, friendships and attraction begin to grow. Will Celeste be able to save herself, or will her choices unravel a kingdom, devastating sirens and humans alike? The Little Mermaid is one of my comfort movies. Yeah, I'm excited for this one, and I hope it's good. Okay, next I have When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, and this comes out on April 22nd. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, horrifying incidents of butchery follow them. At first, Jess thinks she understands what they're up against, but she's about to learn there's more to these surreal and grisly events than she ever could have imagined, and that when the wolf finally comes home, none will be spared. Jordaline over at Jordaline Reads put this one on my radar because she read it very recently and she liked it, and I trust her opinion, so I put it on my list. Yeah, it sounds really, really good. All right, next I have Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, and this is coming out on April 25th. I think this is finally happening. So we have a cover, and I really think that if they were going to push it back again, we would know. So this is the 4th book in the Morgan Crow middle grade fantasy series, which I completely fell in love with last year. We follow Morgan Crow, a cursed child, as she goes through many trials and tribulations in order to cement a place in the magical world of Nevermore, rather than dying on her 12th birthday back in the real world. This is an excellent blend of like magical, whimsical middle grade while also having like really interesting adult themes and adult characters that I think makes it enjoyable for anyone. I really, really love this series, and I am greatly looking forward to this next installment. And then I have The Floating World by Axie O, and this is coming out on April 29th. In this, we are following Sun Ho, an ex-soldier who is after the score of a lifetime, a chest of coins for any mercenary who can hunt down a girl who wields silver light. And, of course, Ren, a spirited traveling acrobat who has kept her power hidden since childhood. When her uncle is poisoned by a horrific demon, Ren sets off over the mountains where the creature came from, and from where Ren herself fled 10 years ago. Her path sets her on a collision course with Sunho, but he doesn't realize she's the girl that he, and 100 other swords for hire, is looking for. As the two grow closer through their travels, they come to realize that their pasts and destinies are far more entwined than either of them could have imagined. I'm always a sucker for a good quest story and unlikely allies. The cover is really beautiful. I don't know, I think this one has a lot of potential. Next I have Bat Eater and Other Names by Kylie Lee Baker, and this also comes out on April 29th. Cora Zhang is a crime scene cleaner washing away the remains of brutal murders and suicides in Chinatown. But none of that seems so terrible when she's already witnessed the most horrific thing possible: her sister Delilah being pushed in front of a train. Before fleeing the scene, the murderer shouted 2 words: Bat Eater. So the bloody messes don't really bother Cora. She's more bothered by the germs on the subway railing, the bare hands of a stranger, the hidden viruses in every corner, and the bite marks on her coffee table. Of course, ever since Delilah was killed in front of her, Cora can't be sure what's real and what's in her head. She pushes away all feelings and ignores the advice of her aunt to prepare for the Hungry Ghost Festival when the gates of hell open. But she can't ignore the dread in her stomach as she keeps finding bat carcasses at crime scenes, or the scary fact that all of her recent cleanups have been the bodies of East Asian women. As Cora will soon learn, you can't just ignore hungry ghosts. In this explosive horror novel, a woman is haunted by inner trauma, hungry ghosts, and a serial killer as she confronts the brutal violence experienced by East Asians during the pandemic. This one also sounds amazing. This sounds so good. I cannot wait to read this one. Next, I have The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, and this also comes out on April 29th. 5 high school friends are bonded by an oath to protect one another no matter what. Then, on a camping trip in the middle of the forest, they find something. A mysterious staircase to nowhere. One friend walks up and never comes back down. Then, the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared. Now the group returns to find the lost boy and what lies beyond the staircase in the woods. Ooh, I have chills! As a fan of like portal fantasy, there is just something about like a weird doorway to someplace or a magical staircase to nowhere that's just very intriguing. So I am super curious about this one. And then I have Overgrowth by Mira Grant, and this comes out on May 6th. This is just a story. It can't hurt you anymore. Since she was 3 years old, Anastasia Miller has been telling anyone who would listen that she's an alien disguised as a human being, and that the armada that left her on Earth is coming for her. Since she was 3 years old, no one has been willing to listen. Now, with an alien signal from the stars being broadcast around the world, humanity is finally starting to realize that it's already been warned, and it may be too late. The invasion is coming. Stasia's biological family is on the way to bring her home, and very few family reunions are willing to cross the gulf of space for just one misplaced child. What happens when you know what's coming and just refuse to listen? Mira Grant is Shauna Maguire, just for the record, and I haven't read any of her novels that have been published under that pen name, but I think it might be time to change that. Okay, and then we have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and this is coming out on May 13th. Holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city, where he is certain accommodation and grand holy assignment awaits him, but his new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters. And the mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous end. Elves lurk at the borders and hunger for our flesh, while greedy princes care for nothing but their own ambitions and comfort. With a hellish journey before him, it's a good thing Brother Diaz has the devils on his side. Next, I have The Incandescent by Emily Tesh, and this comes out on May 13th. Dr. Walden is the director of magic at Chetwood Academy and one of the most powerful magicians in England. Her days consist of meetings, teaching A-level invocation to 4 talented, chaotic 6th formers, more meetings, and securing the school's boundaries from demonic incursions. Walden is good at her job. No, Walden is great at her job, but demons are masters of manipulation. It's her responsibility to keep her school with its 600 students and centuries-old legacy safe, but it's possible the entity Walden most needs to keep her school safe from is herself. Next, I have Angie Kills a King by Evan Leekman, and this comes out on May 13th. When Angie, a castle servant, is presented with the rare opportunity to slit the throat of the king that she hates, she takes it. And then she runs for her life. In her wake, the kingdom is thrown into disarray, while a bounty bigger than anyone could imagine lands on her head. On her heels are the fabled mercenaries of the menagerie, whose animal-shaped masks are magical relics rumored to give them superhuman powers. It's the hawk that finds Angie, a surly, aging swordswoman who has her own reasons for keeping Angie alive and out of the hands of her fellow bounty hunters, if only long enough to collect the reward herself. With the rest of the menagerie on their tail, so begins an alliance as tenuous as it is temporary, and a race against death that will decide Angie's fate and may change the course of a kingdom. This one just sounds really fun. The early reviews for this have been pretty good, and I just really love stories with older female characters. So the fact that this has an aging swordswoman, that's a buzzword for me. So I'm really excited. Next, I have Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang, and this comes out on May 13th. Mathilde is a dizzyingly talented yet tortured artist whose star is on the rise, and Enka, struggling to make art that feels original, is immediately drawn to her. The two strike up an intense bond that soon turns codependent, but when Mathilde's fame reaches new heights, Enka becomes desperate to keep her best friend close, no matter the cost. Enka quickly falls in love with and marries a billionaire whose family's company is funding an unconventional technology purported to heighten empathy, which could allow someone else to inhabit Mathilda's mind and absorb the trauma from her brain. Soon, the boundaries between Mathilde and Enka begin to blur, setting in motion a disturbing series of events that forever changes their lives. Blisteringly smart, thought-provoking, and shocking, Immaculate Conception deftly navigates big questions of art, technology, authorship, and what makes us human. Ling Ling Huang offers us a portrait of close friendship, achingly tender and twisted, that captures the tenuous line between love and possession that will haunt you long after you've turned the final page. This sounds so good. It feels like a sci-fi version of one of my favorite books, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. So yeah, I'm excited to check this one out. Next, I have The Devil Three Times by Ricky Fain, and this comes out on May 13th. And this is a multi-generational novel about a woman, Yetunde, who's just been sold into slavery and finds unexpected help from the devil himself. Their bargain extends far beyond Yetunde's mortal lifespan. Over the next 175 years, the devil visits Yetunde's descendants in their darkest hour of need. Lucille, a conjure woman, Asa, who passes for white, Louis and Virgil, who risk becoming a 20th century Cain and Abel, Cassandra, who speaks to the dead, James, who struggles to make sense of the past while fighting to keep his family together, and many others. The devil offers each of them his own version of salvation. All the while, can he save himself too? Next, I have The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling, and this comes out on May 20th. Amar Castle has been under siege for 6 months. Food is running low, and there has been no sign of rescue. But just as the survivors consider deliberately thinning their number, the castle stores are replenished. The sick are healed, and the divine figures of the Constant Lady and her saints have arrived, despite the barricaded gates, offering succor in return for adoration. Soon, the entire castle is under the sway of their saviors, partaking in intoxicating feasts of terrible origin. The war hero Servoin gives her allegiance to the Constant Lady. Phocine, a disorganized, paranoid nun turned sorceress, races to unravel the mystery of these new visitors and exonerate her experiments as their source. And in the bowels of the castle, a serving girl, Trelia, is torn between her thirst for a secret vengeance against Foyne and the desperate need to escape from the horrors that are unfolding within Amar's walls. As the castle descends into madness, forgetting the massed army beyond its walls in favor of hedonistic ecstasy, these three women are the only ones to still see their situation for what it is. But they are not immune from the temptations of the castle's new master. monsters or each other, and their shifting alliances and entangled pasts bring violence to the surface. To save the castle and themselves, they will take a reimagining of who they are and a reorganization of the very world itself. Next, I have a very highly anticipated one, and this is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, and this comes out on May 20th. This is the same author as One Dark Window, which is a very popular book. Sybil Delling has spent 9 years dreaming of having no dreams at all. Like the other foundling girls who traded a decade of service for a home in the great cathedral, Sybil is a diviner. In her dreams, she receives visions from 6 unearthly figures known as omens. From them, she can predict terrible things before they occur, and lords and common folk alike travel across the kingdom's windswept moors to learn their futures by her dreams. Just as she and her sister diviners near the end of their service, a mysterious knight arrives at the cathedral. Rude and devilishly handsome, the knight Roderick has no respect for Sybil's visions. But when Sybil's fellow diviners begin to vanish one by one, she has no choice but to seek his help in finding them. For the world outside the cathedral's cloister is wrought with peril. Only the gods have the answers she is seeking, and as much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god. I don't know if this one is considered romantasy, but I feel like it has very strong romantic undertones. It sounds kind of gothic. I'm really looking forward to it. The cover is cool. A lot of people have been really hyping this up. It has a lot of buzz around it. I'm looking forward to checking it out. All right, well, those are all of my most anticipated spring releases. Please let me know what your most anticipated spring releases are. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I just feel like we are getting so many good books this year. I already feel really behind on new releases, so I think that I will need to be doing a good bit of like prioritizing which ones I want to get to in a timely manner. But yeah, were any of these on your list as well? Are any of these books now on your radar? Please let me know. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!